How's it going, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the House of Horror podcast. I got another great interview for you guys today with my new friend Morgan Short. Morgan is a very accomplished filmmaker, known for her films like No Chance, Home Sweet Home, and many more films that we're going to be getting into in this discussion. So as always, I'm just going to keep this intro short and sweet, but before I forget, if you guys haven't already, please make sure you subscribe to the show over on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Wherever you're listening to this, make sure you're subscribed, make sure you leave a rating and a review, share the show with a few of your friends. And yeah, as I said, we're just gonna get right to the interview. Morgan was a great guest, and I'm really happy to be sharing this discussion with you guys. So here it is. I hope you enjoy my interview with Morgan Short. Now let's get spooky. So I saw recently, actually, you were at the Cartoon Network Hotel. What can you tell me about that experience?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so it was so fun. I was just looking at like vacations that I could drive to. And it is a 6-hour drive. It's out in the middle of nowhere in Lancaster, PA, which is like Amish country of Pennsylvania. Very surprising that there's a random hotel there.
Out in the middle of nowhere, isn't that where Courage the Cowardly Dog lives?
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
That still makes sense.
Apparently it used to be like a Motel 6 that caught on fire, and then Cartoon Network just bought it up.
Okay.
And made it into a Cartoon Network hotel. Nicest staff I've ever encountered at any hotel, resort, or anything. Even though we were a group of adults, they were like super excited to like humor us with whatever games they had, even if they're meant for kids. They're like, yeah, you can do the scavenger hunt too. It was so much fun and not badly priced. And it's also next to a theme park called Dutch Wonderland, which was intentionally meant to be a ripoff of Disney World when it first opened. So basically they just have a kiddie ride version of rides that you would see at Disney World.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's really, really cool. Was it a lot of, like, as far as representation at the hotel, are we talking like old school shows? Is it the newer stuff? Like, is there a mix of both?
Unfortunately, it is literally only 6 cartoons. Like, that is the representation, and it's newer stuff. And not even like super new, probably like 2018 era, which is not, I mean, that's still pretty new, but like whatever was on Cartoon Network in 2018, that is the theme of this hotel.
So it's whatever was on TV when they opened, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
None of the old stuff, and I was like, okay, it is what it is. It was still really cute, and it was a great time. I loved it.
Was that your first trip that you've gone on since, the whole world crumbled?
Surprisingly, no. When I got vaccinated, my cousin wanted to go to Disney World, and I got to go for only $600. Mostly I just watched her kids, but I had never been. So that was only a couple of weeks before the Cartoon Network Hotel.
So you're talking to a big Disney World guy right now. Not so much like I like the films, whatever, but like I'm a big like theme park guy. What did you think? I mean, it was your first trip, so like, what did you think? Was it everything you thought it was gonna be?
Yeah, it was everything I thought it was gonna be. We only got to go to Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios, but still amazing. I did not know how big like their property is, though. Like,
yeah.
You have to take like the bus from hotels to the theme park. I was very surprised. I was like, wow, this is massive. And the biggest parking lot I've ever seen in the world.
Did you get to go into the Star Wars area? Because I haven't been since all that happened.
I did. It was very stressful because, so the way they have the new ride set up, you have to get into a queue for it. And the queues only open up at 7 a.m. and 1 p.m. So we had 3 phones going trying to get into the 7 a.m. one. And we missed it, even though we were on it at exactly 7 a.m. So then I was stressed by the time 1 p.m. hit. I was like, what if we miss it again and we don't get to go on the new ride? But we did. We got the 1 p.m. one. And 10 out of 10, the new ride I thought was really amazing.
Yeah. Well, this is a horror show, so I gotta know, what did you think of the Haunted Mansion?
I loved it. I loved it so much. I found out afterwards, though, I was a little upset. There's a wedding cake that you can get that is in theme of the Haunted Mansion. And I'm sad I didn't know about that ahead of time because I would have gotten that. It's like a big white wedding cake with fake blood on it.
Oh, cool.
Oh man, I would have loved to get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually got a bumper sticker of the Haunted Mansion on my car that I'll pick up hitchhiking ghosts. So.
Well, yeah, good to know for all the ghosts and goblins out there. I'm talking to my very distinguished guest today, Morgan Short. I'm very excited to meet you, get to know you. And you would do a better job introducing yourself than I ever would. So why don't you just go ahead and tell the listeners who you are and what you're all about.
All right. So, like you said, my name is Morgan Short. I would say I'm an amateur filmmaker in the Cleveland area. I graduated from Cleveland State University with a film degree and a minor in anthropology, which is kind of an odd mix. And yeah, I really enjoy horror films. Horror and comedy are my top tier favorite genres. And I try to create horror the most, just because they're the most fun. You get to put in the most random things with like makeup and all that sorts of stuff. And I really enjoy that. And currently, I am working at a production company where we just make commercials, which is not as exciting as making horror movies, but one day we'll get there.
Yeah. So how did you first become interested in filmmaking and stuff? Because I know when I was a kid, I mean, you're a little bit younger than me, but when I was a kid, we were all running around with our VHS cameras, just making crazy things like with the neighborhood kids. What was sort of your film background like?
So pretty similar in that aspect. So one of our like family bonding experiences that we do is we would go to the movie theaters on the weekends, almost every weekend. And my parents didn't really care if it was an R-rated film. They're like, yeah, we're going to take you anyway. As long as there wasn't like super graphic stuff. They're like, hey, we're all still going to go see this movie together. And my mom always had me watch horror movies, which I hated as a child. But as I've gotten older, I'm like, no, actually, no, these are great films. And yeah, my mom, when I was 10, she got me one of those little cameras that had little tiny cassette player tapes. And I would just go around town making random like newscast stuff with my friends all the time. I don't know why I wanted to do news when I was little, but I was like, oh, this is fun. And then I also would fill up my mom's phone because she had one of the phones at the time that could do video. They're only like 10-second videos that she could store, but I like just took up all her memory on her phone of just weird short films that I would make, and she'd get so upset with me. But yeah, so I would say that's pretty much how I got started and how I love film the way I do today.
So you mentioned you used to not really like horror films that much. Do you happen to remember what the first horror film... Because I know, like, with me, like, my first horror film that, like, I ever saw in my entire life, it's very, like, vivid memories for me. Do you remember the first horror film that you ever saw?
That, I can't believe I can't remember the first one. It might have been Halloween. My mom really loves that film. And it might have been that one. And Top Tier Terrifying. Yeah, I have to say it was that one. But random thing, the film that scared me the most out of all the films she had me watch, which isn't even a horror movie, really, the movie Signs.
Sort of, yeah, it's like a sci-fi horror kind of scenario. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first one that I watched that I was like, wow, I couldn't sleep for like 2 weeks because I was so afraid there was going to be an alien outside my door or outside my window like they are in the film. So what a time. So yeah, I can't remember it has to be Halloween. It has to be Halloween. Yeah. I was even scared of the VHS cover when it was like sitting over in the stack.
Yeah. So you went from hating them, and then now you said it's one of your favorite genres. Do you happen to, like, remember when it switched, like, when you started to enjoy them?
Yeah, I do, actually. Once again, this isn't full-on, I wouldn't consider it full-on horror, but the movie, when Resident Evil came out, it didn't scare me at all, and I was like, you know what? Actually, zombies and monsters are really cool.
Yeah.
So that would probably be the first, I guess, horror film that made me be like, okay, I need to give more of these films a try, and enjoy them and watch them. And also, Freddy Krueger 2, not part 2, but he was pretty funny as well as I got older, and I'm like, actually, this guy, I like him. He's not bad.
They play it straight for the first few when it's just a couple like little jokes here and there. but then by the fourth one, it's like almost like slapstick at some point, and just like constant one-liners back and forth. But yeah, that's really cool. Did you and you obviously said that you did films when you were a little kid and you were filling up your mom's phone. Did that sort of filmmaking, did that carry over into, like, obviously in college, but like in your high school years? Like, were you like taking any film courses? Were you just going to the movies all the time, or?
Yeah, no, in high school as well. When I transferred schools to Lakewood High School, they had a interactive media program, which was a 2-year course. And I took that. It was great. I didn't really get to do super scary stuff. My teacher didn't like them as much. Like one time I did this really gory, bloody shoot, and like she wouldn't let the rest of the class see it. She would just look and she's like, you did it. I give you an A for doing it. But okay. I was like, yeah. So yeah, that was probably my start on like the right path of going off to film school, because I've honestly been wanting to be a filmmaker since I was 10. So
Yeah.
trying to do that.
Have you ever gone back and tried to watch any of your high school films?
I have. They're not good. I tried watching my, I guess, senior year thesis for high school, which was just this weird, depressing music video. That was rough. I'm like, these are all so bad. But you know what? I tried. I was out here trying.
Yeah, but you caught the filmmaking bug, decided to go to Cleveland State. Why did you choose Cleveland State?
Honestly, just because they were the cheapest.
Fair enough.
That's the reason why. I'd applied to 11 schools, and I gotten in them all. So there was a lot of different options I could have gone to. Like I was possibly thinking of Hofstra, which was had a really cool film program, or Loyola out in California. But all of these schools are like $50,000 a year, and I was like, and they're only wanting to give me half the scholarship. They're like, oh, we'll give you $25,000 a year, and I'm like, well, where am I going to come up with the other $25,000? And they're like, oh, well, I don't know. So yeah, Cleveland State, that's the place to be. Also, it was looking good. I mean, we had the Avengers film at that point already, the first one.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what, maybe
Cleveland's the place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know so many people who either, like, during school, because I went to Kent State for film, and I know so many people who either went out to California for 6 months and came back, or New York, or this and that, and I mean, there's been plenty, like, since I've graduated, there's been plenty of stuff that's been going on in the Cleveland area. I haven't been involved with as much of it as I would have liked to. I moved away for a few years and this and that. But yeah, Cleveland, it's been a good place, like, consistently, especially with horror films recently.
Yeah.
Because I know they did horrible film, but I know, like, they did, like, The Bye-Bye Man here. They did a bunch of other stuff, like Netflix stuff. Little Evil is another one they did around here. But yeah, like, Cleveland's a good place for film right now.
Yeah, and then it seems like it's just going to keep getting better. So, looking forward to just even just helping out on films is exciting to me. Because currently I think I want to be stuck at my current job for a little while because it makes good money, even though it's not very creative because I'm just a production manager. But still looking forward to, more things opening up and more films coming to Cleveland.
So what was like your college experience like working on films?
It was interesting. I accidentally did the film course too fast. So I never went and like talked to my advisor, and I took my senior thesis like the beginning of my junior year, which was way too fast. And then I ran out of film class, essentially. I was like, what do I do now? I mostly just worked on, just worked on my own stuff and like got to interact with more of the film community and introduce. I feel like film school is basically just to introduce yourself to the film community. I don't know where I would have met these people without them. And I'm trying to think of, I did a lot of also ghost hunting as well in college. I was getting gigs to do that, which was weird.
Tell me about that. Gotta hear about the ghosts.
I guess you can consider that horror. I was once asked to be a videographer for a ghost hunting venture for this one paranormal company that's in Cleveland. That was an interesting time because they had never had a videographer on any of their things before. So they're like, oh, we'll just walk around. And I'm like, by myself in this big house that is supposed to be haunted? Okay. We only had I only caught one interesting thing on camera. We did one of those audio voice boxes things where it goes through all the channels and it talks.
Oh, the ghost box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they asked it a direct question and it answered, and I got so excited.
Oh, the spirit box. My mistake. The spirit box. Yeah.
Spirit box. Other than that, it was a very dull time, and I stopped working with them because the people who owned it were like really weird, and I had weird morals, and I was like, I'm not gonna do that.
Just very weird vibes all around.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, don't want to be here anymore. And then I also got paid to exercise a person's house one time. It was a Mother's Day gift, and they paid me and my friend, and I went in with a camera and stuff. And apparently it worked. That lady said she has no more ghosts in her house. So, verified, certified, I can exercise your house.
So when it comes to like the world of paranormal, are you like a skeptic? Have you experienced because like when you were out in these places or like doing an exorcism, did you like feel anything, see anything, or were you just like blank faced, like I don't know what's going on right now?
So one of the things that me and my grandma would do when she would watch me all the time when I was little, we'd watch the Travel Channel and we'd watch A Haunting. Yeah, all the time. That was always on her TV. So I'm aware of ghosts, but I'm not a hardcore believer in a lot of instances. So basically I just went in and I was just creeped out because I'm like, I'm in a house that's dark that I've never been in before.
Right.
I don't trust humans more than I don't trust ghosts. So it was mostly just creepy due to that. So I would say I'm maybe only like a 20% skeptic, and then the rest I'm like, yeah, ghosts are cool.
Yeah. Cool. Well, yeah, getting back to some of the your college years and experiences in college, working on films and stuff, at least like with my experience when I was in quote-unquote film school or a school for film, a lot of the class work is basically your fundamentals, right? But if you actually want to learn what you're doing, you got to do it yourself, and you kind of got to get out and make your own things and do this and that. Did you make any like? I have some films down that you had sent me, but in your early college years, like, did you have any like one big project you were working on besides your thesis, or like, did you have any like interesting things that you made and you're really proud of?
So I have two answers for that. I don't know if I could say I'm really proud of them, but I worked hard on them. So the one was when I ran out of film classes, I was like, okay, the only thing else I can do is just do an independent study, where I took a semester, and I mean, I still had my other random classes, but for my only film class, technically that one was, I just made a film on my own and with no professor or anything. That was called No Chance, and that was a fun experience because I wasn't having to check in with a professor every day. I really just had to plan it all out myself. I didn't, because most of the film classes, they put you in your group that you have to work with those people. This was kind of the first time that I had to reach out to other people and be like, hey, can you help me on a Saturday for no money because I'm in college?
Yeah.
And go hang out in this field for 4 hours in the dark. So that was a great time. The only thing that happened with that film was the audio kind of got messed up midway through. There was a lot of stress with that film. I had got the Zoom recorder from Cleveland Camera Rental, which I love them, and I accidentally kept the audio inside the Zoom, so I had to run back and get it. That was stressful, but it's still, there's a glitchy with the audio. But that was the only problem. A great story about that film, though, was my friend let us borrow their garage that really was out in the pitch black middle of nowhere. It was just kind of where when you pass a field and there's just a building in the middle of the field. We filmed in one of those places.
Right.
So there's nothing there. And when we were pulling out, I was driving my dad's car because I did not have a car at the time. And there was a driveway, and on both sides there's a ditch that there's nothing that tells you there's a ditch. It just drops off about 5 feet. And so when I was pulling out and trying to look at the GPS, I heard something like creak underneath the car. So I asked my friend, I was like, hey, can you get out to see what I just like hit or something? And he opened the door and he disappeared.
Oh.
Because he was just gone. And it's because I was so close to the ditch that there was no ground for him to step on. That was 10 out of 10, probably one of the funniest film experiences I've ever had. But not for him, because he came out covered in mud.
Yeah.
And then for the other projects that I've done, was the 48 Hour. I did those for majority of my college career. I say majority, but I did that about 3 years in a row. And those would be the projects that I've worked on outside of school during that time.
So tell me, because I'm curious, so tell me a little bit about your 48-hour process. Because I've only done one before, and the way we did it, because I know some people like to cut corners and like do this and that, and it's not really done in the 48 hours, all of it. But we did it, like, we waited until 7 p.m. to even start thinking of our plot and cast and stuff like that. So I'm just curious, like, because you've done a few of these, and I guess, what's sort of your process when you're approaching a 48-hour film festival?
I didn't even know there was people cutting corners. Never mind, I did know. There are people that do that. I usually work with the same group. I worked with the same group probably 3 years. I think there was 1 year for a fourth year that I kind of helped with one, but that didn't work out. I've only done the horror one because I feel like that one, it sounds bad, but that one's like a little bit easier. You kind of have at least you have an idea of what kind of props you could have. Where with the summer one, you have no idea at all. But yeah, no, we all just meet up. Usually my friend picks up the information and we all come to my house and we usually write until about 1 a.m. And then everyone goes home or they sleep over. And then we wake up at 8 and we start filming right away.
So there is sleeping involved. When I did it, there was no sleeping involved.
There's some people, there's no sleeping. We usually sleep from probably about 1, 2 a.m. to about 6, 7 a.m. So we did a little bit of hours. Or else we'd probably all hate each other at the end.
That was also our problem. No, that's a little harsh,
we use
but
we use all day Sunday for editing, and that's how that goes.
Yeah. And you said you've done a few of them. Some of them you've sent over. So you did Home Sweet Home. Was that the first one you did, or?
That was not the first one, but that is the last one we did. So that was in 2019. That was the most recent one. That was the one that I directed the most. Usually I co-direct. And so that one I was the front runner director. I still had a co-director, which was my friend. But yeah, that one I had a great time. We got access to basically an abandoned house, which smelled awful the entire time we were there. And there was like nowhere to sit because everything was crusty and gross. And then we put fake blood everywhere, but it was fine because it was an evicted house. It was okay. And we were on the east side of Cleveland, so like, everyone was worried about their car. Like overnight. It was a time. It was a great time. That one turned out, I think, pretty well. I liked that one.
Yeah, and all of these are on YouTube, if people want to go and check them out. Some of them are, at least. So what can you, for people who want to go and check this out, what can you tell me, what is Home Sweet Home?
So Home Sweet Home is basically, if this one was a little bit harder, it might be a little hard to come across because we bit more than we could chew in the process. Basically, what it is, these coworkers come and meet their friend from work who is very normal at work and like, oh, that's an average lady, but they come to her house and how she sees her house is very different than how everyone else sees her house. So basically, like in the opening scenes, they walk into a nice house and she's sitting in her nice house saying, oh, like, welcome. But in reality, her house is the evicted, abandoned house that she lives in. And she is just not aware. And she does not take the news lightly that her house looks bad.
Yeah. Cool. And yeah, so you said that one was a great experience to do. That was the last one that you guys did?
Yeah, for the 48-hour horror, yeah. We are probably going to try and do it again this year. But yeah, that was 2019 one. And then our most recent film that I've helped on was Labor of Love, which for the first time as me and my friend we did not do a horror film. So that was an interesting experience.
What can you tell me about that one?
So that one, it's just a cute, light, comedy drama. And he had honestly just bought a house like 2 weeks prior. And then he's like, well, let's make a movie with his house, his brand new house. Which it was a good time. It was really cute. It turned out cute. And it was a good end product. That was for the Fun Mills Festival. That's what we did. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you've done a couple others. You sent me one more. What is the pronunciation? Is it just sensory, or how do we say it?
Sensory, yeah, no, it's sensory.
Okay, I wanted to make sure.
That was our first, me and my friend, that was our first 48-hour horror film. That one felt like we didn't sleep. We did not have a clear-cut plan for that one. That one was a rough one. We were all very tired. We turned it in. We were just exhausted. But it was good. It was an interesting time. We had an interesting cast. It was, yeah.
What can you tell me about the film? What is it about? For all of our lovely listeners out there who would like to, because I've seen the film, but for those of them who would like to go and check this out, what are they getting themselves into?
So it's just a cute. I shouldn't say cute, but it's so. Whenever I think of like a short film, I'm like, it's cute. Anyway, wow, it's been like 4 years since I've watched it. I should have watched them all before I sent them over to you. Basically, it is about also a young couple, and they just have this guy who he's got telekinesis, which causes them quite a ruckus.
Yeah.
They don't have a good day because of this man. But
yeah.
That's how it be.
Yeah. One of the lines that I really struck out to me when I was watching this film is there's a scene like in a living room, and the girl is watching Frankenstein with Boris Karloff, she says, and she's moving on to Nosferatu, and the guy is like, oh, those are trash. And I'm just sitting there like, I can't deal with this guy.
Yeah, we kind of wanted to make him a little unlikable. The guy who responds with that. And yeah, most definitely very, very sinful things to say in the horror comedy or horror community. I actually just got a Nosferatu shirt yesterday. I'm so excited about it. But it's the Nosferatu scene in SpongeBob when he's like,
oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Like well, was that your introduction to Nosferatu? That was my introduction to him.
Oh, no, I knew about Nosferatu beforehand. I don't think I had seen the entire movie, but I had seen bits and pieces of it. I don't know, I think it was on one of the older channels growing up, and I was like, this man is weird.
Yeah. Yeah. You also sent along a film that you helped out on, and you were also in, called Ghosted. What can you tell me about that one?
Oh, so Ghosted was shot in my house, and wow, it was the hottest day last summer. Wow, it was a rough one. All I can think of was how hot it was. But anyway, so that one my friend wrote. That was completely his side project, his film. That is for La Black Square. And essentially it was just about a guy who doesn't want to accept no for an answer, that this girl just ghosted him. Apparently this man was not living in 2021 and was not aware of that term. So he hires a paranormal investigation team to come to his house because he's like, ghosted. Obviously, that means she's dead or there's a ghost. And there's a cute little twist in the end. And yeah, so that's what that film's about. It's also just a nice little sweet comedy short, a little spooky.
So something I find interesting about this film especially since you said you had some paranormal experiences before. You do play a paranormal videographer in this film.
Yes, that is why my friend cast me. First off, he cast me because, I mean, it was COVID, so we were trying to only stay with people that weren't getting anybody else that was really outside of our circle. And he was like, well, Morgan, you've already done it before. Now just pretend to do it.
Yeah. So what was that experience kind of like? To not play yourself, but basically just to sort of be thrown in there, being like, all right, go do this thing.
It was a little surprising. I don't consider myself a good actress. So I was like, all right, we're really taking a risk here today, bud, with casting me, but okay, I'll do my best. I mean, I got a t-shirt out of it, so that was cool.
Always nice.
Yeah. And no, it was fun. I liked the character that I played. She wasn't honestly too much different than myself. I was like, I'll just be myself, I guess. Just a little more sassy. A little more, I don't know. Yeah, mostly sassy was what it was. Yeah, that was an interesting experience. I would love to be a character in a horror movie that dies, though. I think that would be great.
What would your horror movie death be, if you had to write it down? If you were penning the script of your horror movie death, what would it be?
I like those scenes in movies where there's that person who's like, oh, there's nothing to worry about, we're all fine. And then all of a sudden, like, a giant knife just, like, gets thrown in the air and stabs them, and then they're dead. I would like that one. I would like to be completely nonchalant of, we're fine, guys. There's no murderer in the woods. And then, bam, my head gets taken off. Like, oh, well, she was wrong.
So you see yourself as the person who's out right at the very beginning and not the final girl.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, I would love to be the final girl. But I don't know if I have it cut out to be the final girl.
And why do you feel that way? I feel like you can do anything you set your mind to.
This is true. Maybe in real life, if I was somehow in an awful horror movie in real life, maybe I could. But I feel like in a movie, they honestly, even though they are the final girl, they make so many dumb choices that lead up to them being in the situation that they're in sometimes that
That's
I'm like,
true.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know if I would make those choices. I guess it benefits them in the end because they still live. But, I just don't know if I would go camping in the middle of nowhere that has heard that there's killers on the loose and there's only 3 of us and none of us have brought anything to survive. But the final girl puts herself in those situations.
That is true. That is true. While we're on the topic of the final girls, though, I'm stealing this from my friend's podcast, Stephanie from Books in the Freezer. While we're on this topic, I wasn't planning on talking about this, but final girls, right? On her show, she always, since we're visualizing you as the final girl, what song would be playing in that final chase for you? If you had to pick a song as like, this is the triumphant end of the film, I'm gonna make it out of this, what would be blasting in the background?
Oh my gosh, this is a hard question, mainly because whenever anybody asks me about music, my brain acts like I've never heard a song in my life before. Especially, I'm one of those people, like, if I have a band shirt on and someone asks me about my band, I'm like, I don't know, I've never heard of the band, which is not true, I have, but that's how my brain works. My first thought, which is not good, I wouldn't really want this, but the first person that came to my head is the rapper Young Gravy. And
you're gonna have to enlighten me with this. I have no idea what this is. Maybe it's the boomer in me, but so what is a Young Gravy?
He's a comedy rapper. I think that's the best way to describe him. Most of his songs are just about him sleeping with older women, like MILFs.
Legend.
Yeah, he's just a comedy rapper. I love him though, but maybe something by him, which would probably ruin the mood for the final girl. But it would be funny, and I would like for it to be funny. So perhaps something by him, but I guess it maybe if we're being a little more serious. Man, what would be a good way? If I killed the person in, like, if it was a murderer, like Halloween or something, and I blew him up in a giant factory, I think the song Radioactive would
There you go.
uh, and just because there would be cool explosions and it would go together. So maybe that. I don't know.
That's a good pick. Yeah.
I wish I knew better songs.
Yeah. So yeah, you've taken the role as a director. You've done some acting. You've done a lot of stuff. But what do you consider yourself? Like, do you prefer to direct? Do you like the producing end of things? Like, what are you really like? This is my thing. Like, this is what I'm passionate about.
I 100% prefer acting. Or not acting, I'm sorry, directing. I 100% prefer directing. I don't know why I said acting. I think because we just talking about it. That is my goal. That has been my goal for a long time. I also just feel like directors are the only ones that really get to say, hey, that's my movie. Like, I made that. Even though there's so many other people that have created this film, there's the editors, the producers, everybody. I feel like I just like the concept that, like, directors be like, hey, I made that. So I kind of like that. And I just also like being able to organize how everything's going to go. I like being in control in that aspect. But in the same time, sometimes I do appreciate when someone just asks me to help out on a film and I just show up and they're just like, hey, do this, this, or that. Because sometimes that's just a fun time. But yeah, directing would be my main thing. And I would prefer to, like, direct horror comedy. But I've been on a few true crime stuff, and that's also pretty fun.
Yeah, you had mentioned that to me. You were on the Murder Tapes, it's called?
Yeah, Murder Tapes on the Discovery Channel, or ID, Investigation Discovery Channel. I got to help out with those twice. It's supposed to be a third time, but COVID came. That was a fun experience. They did 2 episodes in Lakewood, which I was surprised. I was like, I didn't know we've had important enough murders in Lakewood to be on TV, but apparently we have.
Yeah.
And one of the days, though, I just had to sit at the police station for 9 hours and just watch interview footage for 9 hours. That was a rough one, but it was a good time.
Yeah. What was sort of your role with that? Were you like a production assistant? Were you like doing camera stuff or like what?
Yeah, for the Murder Tapes, I was just a PA, because they just send in a crew of 3 people, like 3 dudes who are from LA and New York. They know nothing about Cleveland, Ohio. So basically I tell them where to get their rentals and I tell them where to eat food and I just help out on set. It was interesting. One night they had me go off at like 7 p.m. I had to find targets, like human target silhouettes.
Oh, okay.
Because they wanted to do a shoot in the Lakewood Police Department's fire range, but they had just redid their fire range, so there was nothing in it. And they're like, Morgan, go find these. And I don't know anything about guns. So here I am. I had to go to 3 different gun stores just to find the things that they were looking for. What an interesting time. I walked into one, and the second I walked in, and the guy's talking about how much he hates cats. And I was like, I am really out of my element here. Because I know nothing about guns, and I love cats. So, anyway.
That sounds like my worst nightmare as well. It's like, I can't relate to this at all.
No. So that was an interesting time, but, yeah, and then also, not just Murder Tapes, I also worked with Transition Studios as well, and they make true crime documentary films.
Yeah, and what was that experience? You said some of their films are on Netflix. How did you sort of get hooked up with them, and what projects did you work on with them?
So the films that I worked with them, they're still in production, they're not ready to be released yet, so I can't really say too much about those ones, but I can say kind of what I've done for them and the films that they have out now. The films they have out now, one, I think it's on HBO still, called Murder in the Park, or it might be on Netflix now. and that is about a guy being wrongfully accused for a murder, and he was in prison for like 25 years, even more if possible. And because of their film, they like helped him get released. And he actually lives in Brooklyn, Ohio now, even though it was a murder that happened in New York, I think. So technically it has a happy ending because the guy got out. And also the other film they have on Netflix is White Boy Rick, which is about the...
I was on White Boy Rick.
Yeah. The actual like film version or the documentary version?
Not the documentary version, the film version.
Right.
Okay. Which they shot in Cleveland as well.
Yeah. So they made the documentary version. I didn't get to help out with that one, but the reason why I knew these people was my professor, Neuendorf, was really close friends with them. And then I accidentally worked with the owner's son as well at one of my jobs. And then I had more friends who started working with him. So I was like, hey, can you just hire me too? Because we keep running into each other all the time. Basically, what I had to do for him, though, I was also just a PA, but I was just doing all the research that goes into true crime, which is so much research. I had to watch a year's worth of news footage from Wisconsin. Which that's a time. Menards jingle is still stuck in my head. Apparently they really love Menards up in Wisconsin.
They love it more than us, and Ohio loves it. I mean, you hear the commercials all the time, constantly here, but yeah, you can't get more Midwest than a Menards.
Right. So yeah, they have 2 different films that I helped out on with that hopefully are coming out. Hopefully within the next 2 years, we'll see. But I'm pretty excited about those ones.
Yeah. What projects are you working on now?
So I do have one short film that I really want to get done. The only thing I'm having trouble with is finding someone with a really nice bathroom. So if anyone listening has a really nice bathroom and will let me film in it, please do. That is just a 1-page script, honestly, that I just kind of had in the back of my head that I was like, well, let's make it. Let's do it. And it was supposed to be filmed last month, but plans kind of fell through. So hopefully I can find a replacement bathroom.
Yeah. So all the viewers out there, if you're in the Northeast Ohio area and you've got a good bathroom, let us know.
And then that's the only horror thing I have going on right now. And then I'm also trying to create my own podcast. We just recorded our first episode yesterday.
Oh, that's fun. Tell me,
yeah.
Because by the time this is out, your podcast will probably be out there into the world. So give me the scoop.
Okay, so our plan is to release it in the end of June, and it's called a short and shorter podcast, which basically it's just me and my best friend. The joke in the name is that my last name is Short, and he's also a little person. So we have short and we have shorter. And basically, we just will be reviewing relevant media. So if any like new horror movie or a TV show or a book is out, and it doesn't have to be horror. We're probably going to talk about just about anything that is like, what are people talking about right now? And then we'll give a review on that. And then we're going to keep them pretty short because both him and I have short attention spans. So our episodes are only going to be 25 minutes long. And yeah, first episode, not great. We learned the lesson of we're ordering another mic. But we're going to release it anyway because even though the audio is a little bit rough, I think it's important to show your failures too.
Oh, yeah.
Like, hey, we tried.
So from personal experience, you're not going to know what you're doing for a while.
Right.
Because things are going to keep coming up. And I know, like, my first podcast, not this one, but my other podcast that I do besides this, the entire first season is just like, I can't even go back and try to listen to those ones. It takes a while to, like, get in the swing of things, but you'll get used to it.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. And it should be a good time. Hopefully on our next episode, I'm going to be able to review the new Conjuring film that came out. I'm very excited to watch that, and I'm very excited to talk about it afterwards.
Yeah. At the time of this recording, that film came out yesterday. But of course, by the time anyone will be hearing any of this, it's long since passed. But yeah, it's out this weekend, so hopefully you guys can get that going.
So excited. What are your feelings on the Conjuring films?
So, okay, so it's a little tricky. So the first one I think is just alright. The first Annabelle is horrible.
I didn't even watch the Annabelle films. I consider myself a Conjuring fan, but I have not watched the Annabelle films.
Okay, so Annabelle Creation, okay, which is the sequel to Annabelle. I think it's the 4th film overall, or maybe it's like the 5th one. That one might be the best.
Oh, okay.
So Conjuring 2 I think is very good as well. So those two, it's like a toss-up. Those two are both very good. But the reason I think I like Annabelle Creation the best is because the first Annabelle was like so bad. So it's like, it's kind of like, how is this good? It's like, how did you come up with something to get me reinvested in this? Mm-hmm. And then I haven't seen the 3rd one, Annabelle Comes Home, but that's supposed to be pretty good. My friend says it's good. I don't necessarily believe him. But yeah, those are my thoughts about it. I haven't seen like La Llorona or any of the other like spin-offs or anything. I've seen part of The Nun. That's just laughable. But yeah, what do you think about Conjuring?
I really enjoyed them personally. I kind of have enjoyed where we are at with horror films over the past 10 years. Because my thing with the horror films, I really don't like torture-y ones, and I don't like well, I guess that's the main one. I don't like torture ones. So if you just give me a monster or a ghost, I'm like, yes, this is what I'm all about. Also, I mean, if there's a random killer, but I still consider that a monster. Also, I am top peak. And technically, since I guess I grew up Catholic, even though I didn't go to a Catholic school or anything. Anything that has to do with like the devil, I'm like, ooh, spooky, scary. So yeah, no, I thought they were a fun time, and I look forward to the 3rd one. It is funny though when you look up like the true stories behind them, and it kind of takes all the spook out of the film, and how basically every house they've gone to, the people actually really hate Ed and Lorraine Warren,
Right? Yeah.
Helpful in any way whatsoever. So I find that funny, especially in The Nun. Is it The Nun or, but just like Conjuring Part 2 and that one specifically, they actually only showed up to that house for one day, and they were uninvited, and they just showed up and were like, hey, we're here to help you, and they're like, why? No one asked you.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that from no one I actually know, but like I've listened to a few podcasts or whatever where like they've had the families on like the show or whatever, and like they don't even like to talk about it.
Yeah.
Like they're just like, yeah, it's not what you think it is.
Apparently Lorraine would just come in and do a seance, which I feel like doing a seance is, if you have a ghost problem, I feel like that's the worst thing to do. I don't think you should talk to it.
Yeah.
No, do that. But yeah, we'll see how the 3rd one goes.
Yeah, so you said you've been pretty high on horror the past like 10 years or so. It's hard to pick a favorite, but what are some of your go-tos? What are some of your favorite horror films?
I really enjoy, I have bad opinions. I'm going to say that right now for everyone listening.
You don't have, the people that listen to this show, and I have my friend Miles on here all the time, they're used to the horrible, worst opinions you could possibly have. I guarantee your opinions are god tier compared to some of the shit he says. Just had to roast him real fast, it's fine.
So talking about like the ones in the last 10 years, like I really enjoyed the Insidious series that came out, the Sinister series, and the Conjuring series. It all kind of came out at the same time. I just thought I think that what kind of got me back more into horror. Just, even though with Insidious, I was really upset with that monster reveal in the end, with him just being a goat man. That really broke my hopes and dreams of a big scary monster.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's just Tumnus over here on the piano. Okay. Anyway, But up until then, it was a good time. I do want to reference this one horror film that I make all my friends watch if they say they haven't seen it and we're having a movie night. It's not good, and I shouldn't say I love it, but I kind of do. It's called Black Sheep, and it's like a B-rated horror film. Have you ever seen it?
I have never seen it.
Oh my god, I love it so much. Not that people in the podcast can see it, but this is, I have it. I'm ready.
I think I've seen that cover.
Oh, it's awful, but it's so funny. It's just a good comedy horror. It is about werewolf sheep, and they're in New Zealand, which would be the worst place to have werewolf sheep since there are 20 million sheep in New Zealand.
Is it shot in New Zealand?
It is. It is shot in New Zealand. It's a New Zealand film. Yeah, if you want to watch a bad horror movie, 10 out of 10 recommend.
10 out of 10. So would you say it's an underrated film, or do you think it's just like well, obviously it's so bad it's good, but like if you were to pick, like, what's a horror film that you think is like really underrated?
So my all-time favorite horror movie, I wouldn't know if it's underrated, because I feel like a lot of people do love it, but my all-time top tier right now is The Witch.
Okay. I have a witch shirt.
Yeah, I love that movie. Even though it's not like awfully scary, it's one of the only films that I ever watched that I was just really uncomfortable the whole time I watched it, and I never knew what anyone was gonna do, and I didn't know where the film was gonna go. I thought it was just a really good, bizarre experience. I know some people said it was boring. Also, I just really love Black Phillip. I have a Black Phillip pillow on my couch that says "Live Deliciously." So I feel like that's a little bit underrated.
What do you think of The Lighthouse?
Wow, I had high hopes for it because I loved The Witch so much.
You didn't like it?
It was okay.
I can tell you didn't like it. You can just say you didn't like it.
It was just so weird. I mean, The Witch was weird too. But it was just like, okay, why do we tell this story? Well, why do we want to write this one down?
I loved The Lighthouse, but I found it was, because we did a podcast about it like the day after or whatever. It was kind of weird to talk about. Like, we didn't know how to even like go about reviewing it. Right.
I can't say that I hated it. I'm glad I watched it, but yes, it was. I'd never seen a movie like that before, so they got that going for them.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what other stuff comes out from them, though. I hope we do keep on getting more weird stuff.
Yeah. Before I started talking about The Lighthouse, you were saying something, and I cut you off a little bit. What were you trying to say? I'm sorry.
The Witch also has one of those new trend terms that I think is funny. Horror movies that you think of, good for her horror films.
Okay.
Where
so Midsummer.
Yes, one of those. And I also I like that idea of like, yeah, you've been having a rough time, you've now murdered everybody, good for you, have a good time.
Yeah. What are some other ones you think are underrated that people should check out if they haven't already?
I'm looking over at my film list. I feel like for newer films, I haven't seen any new ones that I was like really like people needs to watch them. That's a tough question. I should have wrote a list.
It doesn't have to be anything newer, just like anything you can think of.
To go on par with my other bad opinions, 1408 was also one of the first few horror films I really loved. Just because I loved that concept of being in one room and everything just being awful.
Yeah.
Instead of always having a huge expansive, like if they're in the woods and they're going all these different places. I like that. That's fun. And then also, this is a random unasked for opinion, but I wish they would make more Silent Hill films.
You and my friend Miles would get along swimmingly. He's the one with the horrible opinions, and he loves Silent Hill.
I wouldn't say I love it, but I just wish they'd make more. I know I could probably like play the video game, but like I just want to explore that world more, and just keep on making grotesque, weird monsters, guys. I want to see what you can do with the CGI we have today.
I've actually never seen a Silent Hill film, surprisingly.
Really?
Yes, I don't know why. I just sort of like missed the boat on it, but yeah, I've never seen any of the Silent Hills.
I recommend them. You got good scary monsters. It's also one of those films that like have lasting effects. Where whenever I hear a siren, my immediate thought is Silent Hill. I like when a movie can do that, where it will just have those like whenever you think of something or hear something, you're like that film. So yeah, sirens are still scary because I think that everything's gonna turn dark and weird goblins are gonna come out of the alleyways and walk really slow towards me, and somehow it's still scary.
Yeah. So we talked about underrated, we talked about your favorites. What are some that you think, not necessarily like hate, but what are some that like you think are like overrated? Like you just like don't get what the big deal is?
The Saw series. 100%. So part 1, I 100% respect. I love what they did with part 1. Because it really was like, hey, we have a low budget and we only have this one room to shoot in. And I think that's great. And then after that, I'm like, I'm done. I'm not sure why everyone's so excited to go see more and more and more.
It was a big deal at the time. Like, I don't think, like, nowadays, like, we just had Spiral come out and Jigsaw and stuff, and, like, they just kind of come out, like, there's not too much, like, buzz around them. But I remember, like, at the time, it was, like, every year there's a new Saw movie. It always came out, like, a couple weeks before Halloween or whatever. And, like, I think I was in, like, junior high when Saw 2 came out. Mm-hmm. And I remember, like, all right, after the Halloween dance or whatever, we're all going to go see Saw 2. And then it was just, like, every year it was, like, a tradition that, that a Saw movie would come out, like, around Halloween. But nowadays, yeah, like, no one really talks about it.
So I guess it's not as relevant, but that was my immediate thought. Because I just remember that high school time, like, everyone would be like, Saw, like, they're just obsessed. Like, well, have you ever seen Saw? Like, yes, we've all seen Saw here.
Yeah. I feel like it's the same way with, like, Paranormal Activity and stuff, too. Like, those films were, like, the biggest deal at the time, but then, like, at least that one was, like, shorter than Saw. Because Saw, like, I think, they have, like, 9 of them now. But, like, Paranormal Activity is just, like, 5, and it's like, all right, cool, we out, or whatever.
And the same with Paranormal Activity, where I respected the first one. And I thought since there was, like, we didn't really know the people who made the movie, like, they didn't really have, like, a big following or anything. They're like, oh, you know, this actually could be spooky. But then when you make more and more and more, it kind of, like, takes the spookiness, I think, out of it. Like, when you find out that these are all just normal people and they're just, I'm like, okay, you're just doing the same stuff, guys. I mean, it's not fun.
So are you a fan of found footage or no?
I do not like found footage whatsoever. The only reason why I liked Paranormal Activity Part 1 was because, I mean, besides the fact that I thought it was pretty spooky, but there's no moving camera, really. We have stationary camera, basically, in all the rooms. So I like that. Found footage, not a big fan. There's just too much shaky, and I'm like, I just want to see what you're seeing.
So will you agree with me, because this is a hill I'll die on, is Blair Witch Project overrated?
I think yes, and the only reason why it was scary is because people thought it was genuinely real when it first came out, and they're like, wow, this could have really happened. But then you find out that it's just some college students. But in that fact, I respect them as well. I'm like, you guys went out there. You got lost in the woods for 2 weeks. I love that.
Yeah. Are there any other films you think are overrated?
Other films I think are overrated? There's probably a lot of them, honestly.
What's one that you just can't stand, then? Like, not overrated, but what film are you just like, I can't deal with this? Besides Saw and Hostel and all the, like, torture movies. Like, what one are you just like, I don't know why people think this is good?
Oh my gosh. I wish I could remember. There is one specific one. Oh man. What was it? Oh. Oh man, it's not coming to me right now. What's one of yours? Then maybe I'll think of it when.
A film that I think really sucks is Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah, that's valid. That's a valid opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, like with that one, like I don't know what the big deal. Like I understand, like with these films and like same with like Blair Witch Project and stuff like that. Like I understand the horror significance and like I can respect it for what it is, but it doesn't make it a good film. Like you can watch, because like because everyone sees movies differently, right? Like no matter what movie you see, it doesn't matter if it's won Oscars, all these awards, it's highly regarded. Everyone sees film in like their own way. So like every time you're watching a film, it's different to no matter who's watching it. So just because I think that it's not horror, but I think The Godfather is the greatest film of all time, and it's not because I'm a film snob. It just is. Like to me, that's the perfect film. But some people are like, all right, yeah, that film's too long. Like blah 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 blah. Like everyone sees things differently, I guess. And like Halloween is my favorite horror film of all time. And some people scoff at it because it's so popular, and some people say, oh, you know, like Halloween's great, but not much really happens. The beginning's slow, and then it's not really good until the end or whatever. So just everyone sees everything differently.
Right, for sure. I've actually not seen The Godfather, which I feel like is a sinful thing to say as a film major. I used to get through most of film school when people would say if I've seen that film, and I'd say yes. And then I just wouldn't talk about it.
Okay, so I have a film school related question for you. Citizen Kane.
God, I hated that film so much.
Thank you. Please. Oh my God. Okay.
Oh God, we saw the ceiling so much in that film, which I know at the time was very cool. That movie was rough. No.
Again, appreciate, okay, they invented all these new techniques, whatever. Film sucks.
Yeah, sure does. I can respect what you did there, but I don't want to watch it again.
Cool. So I guess before I let you go here, how can people find you, if they want to check out your films or they want to follow you on social media? How can people, get in touch with you?
All right. So for my Facebook, you can just look up Morgan Short and I'll be there. And that's usually how I update stuff. I may be making a more professional Facebook page at one point for the podcast, but not sure yet. And then for the podcast, we're going to try and release it at the end of this month. That's once again called a Short and Shorter podcast. We're going to try to just release that on anywhere you get your podcasts. And then for my YouTube, that also, you can just look up Morgan Short or my email, which is morgan.short1495@gmail.com. Yeah, I don't have any cool stage name. I feel like directors don't need a cool stage name.
No, you got it all right there. Hey, you got a creative name with the podcast, so it sort of ties in. It's punny.
Yeah, gotta love a good pun in names.
Yeah.
Appreciate those.
Instagram or Twitter or anything, or just the Facebook and YouTube?
Facebook and YouTube are probably the ones where I promote my work of the stuff. I never use Twitter. I try to, but I always forget that it exists. I don't like the fact that Twitter shows me what other people like on my feed, because I don't care what other people like. That sounds bad.
That's true. Like, when I first made my Twitter or whatever, they had an option where you can turn off retweets for people that you follow. I was like, all right, cool, great. Like, I don't want to see anyone's retweets or whatever. But then they started showing the things people favorite, and there's no way to turn it off.
That bothers me so much. I'm like, I don't care. Like, maybe, like, retweets I might like, but just showing me, oh, they liked this. Especially if it's celebrities, because, like, I would follow a few celebrities. I most definitely don't care what they're favoriting. I'm like, I just want to see if they say something funny. That's all I want. And then on Instagram, not super film-oriented, so it's not that important.
Cool. Yeah, anything else you want to tell the people out there?
I think that's all, but thank you so much for having me on today. Super excited. But yeah, guys, keep out end of June, the Short and Shorter podcast. Very excited. Even though the first episode's going to suck, be on the lookout for episode 2. Where it's going to be better audio.
Cool. Very excited to have you on my show today. Very excited to checking out your podcast. Of course, when this show that we're doing right now will already be out into the world. So I'll make sure I'll put the links down below for everyone out there to go ahead and check it out. If you ever do guests on the show, let me know. I will be there. And yeah, I look forward to everything that you've got going on. You've got some amazing things coming up, so I'm really happy for you and really excited. So
thank you so much. I hope you have a lovely day, and most definitely we'll have you on as a guest. Very excited about it.
Well, that's about it for this time, you guys. I hope you enjoyed my interview with my friend Morgan. Again, if you guys haven't already, please make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you're listening to the show. Leave a rating, review, thumbs up, and share the show with a few of your friends. It really helps me out a lot, you guys. And again, I'm going to be seeing you guys back here over on YouTube tomorrow for another episode of the House of Horror. So as always, take care and stay spooky.